What's going on, everybody? This is John out here from Sports Day in the D. You've seen that I've started to build up my YouTube channel once again because I had to get that stuff changed. I'm doing a lot of classic videos. This comes along the line of the same thing because today Capcom has released Mega Man Legacy Collection on August 25th. This includes the NES Classics 1 through 6, as you see there with save states if the game's too hard for you, has challenges, artwork, and more, all for a convenient package of which I think is $20. Now, whether or not you're going to buy this game, essentially, again, depends on if you've already been milked from Capcom. If you're one of the older gamers out there like myself, you know, I wasn't able to get the much of a NES collection that I talked about in some of my videos, but I'm 27. If you're a little bit older than me, maybe you've been able to get through all of the Mega Mans. I really only had 2 and 6 in my collection, but still, if you've played these games and you've bought them before, and you also bought the Anniversary Collection that was on the PlayStation 2, GameCube, or the Xbox, I believe the Anniversary Collection had Mega Man 1 through 8. I don't believe it had any of the X games in the series from the SNES, because I think that also had its own collection. But in the Legacy Collection, you're getting 1 through 6. So, if you haven't had a chance to play these, I would wholeheartedly recommend picking it up for the $20, because I think it's a good package. What I would say, after only beating Mega Man 2, because I just picked this up today, that this game includes all the flickering and the sprites and the slowdown from the NES titles. So, if that's one of the things that keeps you on the fence of whether or not to buy this Legacy Collection, I would ultimately say this would not be for you, because this retains all of the same code from the NES Faithful version. So basically, if you're not familiar with Mega Man, I'm not going to flame you for it, but I'm here to let you know that pretty much this is a series from Capcom that started the platforming staple for the Blue Bomber. Pretty much what you do, with the exception of the first Mega Man, I believe, had 6 or 5 bosses, and all the other ones from 2 through 6 give you 8. Mega Man 1 is not my favorite, so that's probably why I'm not too familiar with that. Pretty much what you do is you pick a stage that it contains a boss, and then when you beat the boss, you get the said power-up from that boss. And then you use that power-up, and you use your noggin a little bit to try to figure out what weakness point would work on the next boss. Now this game, Mega Man 2, is the easiest out of the 6, and quite possibly that's why it's more fun for a lot of players out there. I'm speaking for myself included because I'm not the most skilled, and I definitely had to use in Mega Man 2, even though it is the easiest of all of them, the save states when I got to Dr. Wily's castle, because, like I said, I hadn't played in a while, and I'm not the most professional player out there. However, when you get to the point where you're going to need save states, it definitely works in the castles, because you're going to have all of your power-ups available to you by the time you get to Dr. Wily's castle after you defeat the 8 bosses, or however many are in Mega Man 1. Use the power-ups on those robots, and you get to Dr. Wily's castle. Dr. Wily is the adversary that you're going to fight pretty much in almost all of the Mega Mans. He sets up the evil robots to try to defeat Mega Man, and that's about it. The whole storyline rests on Dr. Light and Dr. Wily. Dr. Light is the good doctor that created Mega Man, Roll, Mega Man's sister, all of that stuff like that. So you pretty much go ahead and fight the bosses, and that's that. There really isn't much more of a story compared to that. But what you get is incredible platforming with great music, hard difficulty. This is like the NES tough kind of games. That's what Mega Man 2 is. So you get great platforming, hard difficulty, fantastic music. I think everything is ultimately fair once you get used to it, once you figure out what your other items are that Dr. Light will give you, whether it's jumping on Rush or getting a jetpack or something like that that allows you to get across the stage, especially in Mega Man 2 and Heat Man stage. If that helps you, you don't have to go with the blocks the whole time. That'll help you. So you pretty much get familiar with your arsenal, and you go to Dr. Wily's castle and you try to use whatever in your arsenal that the enemies are weak to, and you beat it. So pretty much that's what Mega Man's all about. Like I said, the save states really come in handy when you get into the castle, because by then it expects you to use all of your arsenal and all of your extra items to be able to traverse to where you need to go to. In this video, you're going to see me defeat like the first 3 robots, and I'm just giving you a synopsis of Mega Man and the package in general. So the challenges mode, which I have not checked yet because I've only defeated Mega Man 2 in the Legacy Collection so far. I think I've beaten my actual gaming history when I was a kid was Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 5, and that was without save states, and I think 6, because I got that at the very end. 6 came out when X Collection came out for the Super Nintendo. When the X series first started, that's when Mega Man 6 came out, and it was kind of an afterthought. But the first 3 games, whether or not you like Mega Man, I think are probably the strongest of the collection. Mega Man 5's not bad, and Mega Man 6 is more of the same. It just kind of lost its luster after 2 and 3, because 2 and 3 are so incredibly good that 4, 5, and 6, while still very good in their own right, you know, it just doesn't match up after a while, because after you've seen everything on the Nintendo, then that's what you got, because Mega Man 2 is utter perfection, and Mega Man 3 is right there up with it, and that includes the slide move and some of the other stuff and the slick platforming that you've come to expect. So the challenges mode, pretty much what that does from the Legacy Collection is allows you to complete said stuff in remix mode, so it changes the difficulty levels of the bosses, where the items are placed throughout the stage, different things like that, and then asks you to beat the game in certain time limits and do all that and get medals. And then you can also use that to get trophies, and I think that there's more achievements that you can get on the Xbox One version compared to the PlayStation 4 version. I'm not quite sure, but that's the only difference that I've noticed in the packages or that I've heard about. And you're obviously looking at the PlayStation 4 version, but I think the only difference between them is trophies and achievements. So there's leaderboards, there is various artwork, there is a music mode where you can go ahead and listen to all the soundtracks throughout the game, and you get Mega Man 1 through 6. So it's a pretty nice package, but like I said, ultimately if you're going to buy it, comes down to whether or not you've been milked through these collections before. If you have them all on your regular Nintendo and they're available to play to you, or if you don't have a frame meister or any of that kind of stuff, and you're playing this on a high definition TV and you want to get rid of the lag, well then the Legacy Collection is the way to go, unless you're playing this on an emulator if you already have the games. So it's pretty much up to you whether or not you're going to get this game, but what you've come to expect, if you're a first time player and you want to get into the series, I would think $20 is a nice entry point, and it's not too steep, because if you wanted to get the actual games on Nintendo, probably cost you a little bit more. So this is a nice framework to get into it. I would also think that Capcom, due to the success of this, and also thinking of the Resident Evil 2 remake that's finally been announced by H, or whatever his name is, that's what he goes by, for the Capcom guy for Resident Evil 2, that now that the Reborn team was told to not make the game anymore, and now Capcom is getting the release of Resident Evil 2 and the success of the Resident Evil remake, Capcom certainly changed their, retrospect between a lot of people, their thought process and all that. They seem like they're really, correcting some of their wrongs they've had the last couple of years. And with them going the DLC route, I think they're making, and the downloadable games, that's what I should have said, the downloadable game route, that they're really making inroads in terms of making money and winning over some of their fans. Now, what I thought would have been cool for this collection is not just Mega Man 1 and 6, but why not include Mega Man Soccer and some of the other stuff like that to try to beef up the price point. That being said, I don't think $20 is a bad entry point, but like I mentioned a couple times in this video already, it all ultimately depends on whether or not you have access to these games before, or whether or not how many times you've already paid for them. But going forward, if this does well, I can certainly see them making a Mega Man X collection and launching that once again in HD. And given the success of Resident Evil Remastered, like I said, Resident Evil 2, maybe if this does well enough, You know, I'm not sitting there trying to tell you to support all the other Capcom franchises, but I certainly would like to go back to them in terms of the regular Nintendo stage, the Super Nintendo stage, and even Mega Man Wily Wars, which was 1 through 3 on the Sega Genesis. That wasn't so bad. Maybe that could have been included on this package. That would have been pretty cool. That if this does well, you probably will get an X collection. You probably will get maybe an Onimusha, you know, something like that. So there's some stuff for God Hand collection, so some other things that maybe Capcom hasn't used in a long time. Maybe that gets launched, maybe that gets used to see some other instances of Capcom franchises that could be used once again. So we'll see what happens, but ultimately when I think about it, Mega Man 1 through 6, I think 2 and 3 are my favorite. I think 5 and 6 are not so bad. I would say 2, 3, 5, 6, and then 1 and 4 are probably my least favorites. I don't think any of them, I don't think there's a bad entry in the series. I'm just not really a fan of the first Mega Man, in my opinion. Mega Man 4 is quite odd. However, the 6 games that are given to you with the price point, I think is a fair asking price. And as long as you can deal with the NES type, the flicker, and some of that stuff, because that has not been changed, as it's faithful to the incarnation of the NES, as you already see throughout some of the stuff in this video, then I don't think it should be a big deal. So what do you think of Mega Man 2? Is that your favorite game in the series? Facebook.com/TBUGunslinger, Twitter @JohnReinot. As always, let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorite old school Mega Man memories are, because I think this is a nice place to also place the video to put in the old school collection. And I absolutely love Mega Man 2. It's my favorite. It's one of the easiest ones to get into because it's not quite as difficult, but it gives you the best music in the series. I think the best music of any Mega Man game of all time. I know that could probably be argued with some of the tunes that are also in the X series on the Super Nintendo. However, I think Mega Man 2 stands alone as the best game in the series, bar none, in my opinion. Like I said, I haven't really played a lot of the X games. I'm pretty much familiar with all of the original classics of Mega Man, and maybe some of the X games on the PlayStation 1, but definitely not on the Super Nintendo, because I didn't have one. I had a Sega Genesis, and like I said in a few of my videos, that I didn't have the opportunity to get a great Nintendo collection because I was born in '87, so I was too young. I was a dumbass and got a lot of those handheld Tiger Electronic games, and then I had a Sega Genesis as a gift, so I didn't get a chance to play the Super Nintendo unless I was over my cousin's house. The first system that I really grew into was in 1997 was the PlayStation. That was my first system, pretty much, because I was 10 and I was able to get a good collection of it. I recommend some of the PlayStation X games. They are just not as good as the Super Nintendo X games. But I think that collection might be on the horizon, and I just want to know what you think of the Mega Man Legacy Collection. Do you think it's worth the admission price, or do you think Capcom's already milked this franchise too many more times and you want to see some new games with the Blue Bomber? Because I was quite disappointed that Mega Man Legends 3, I want to be quite honest with you, Mega Man Legends, like Alpha Omega Sin, I feel the same thing. That was one of my favorite series of all time, and we've only seen 2 games in that series. I would have liked to seen another one on the 3DS. That didn't happen. But we can't lose faith, because if everything goes in well with all the remasters now, with the Resident Evil 2 being announced, like I said, hopefully Onimusha can be on the horizon, and you can hope for some better things, because it seems like Capcom's starting to figure itself out within these last few months, and hopefully we get on the right foot and get some of these franchises that we haven't seen in a long time, especially like Maximo and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens, but this is going to be John signing off for Mega Man Legacy Collection, as you've been watching on the PlayStation 4. As always, get at me, Facebook.com/TBUGunslinger, Twitter @JohnReinot. As always, let me know what you think, and let me know what you think and what your favorite Mega Man memories are, because I would definitely wholeheartedly recommend Mega Man 2. It's my favorite game in the series, and the Legacy Collection, like I said, ultimately depends on your experiences with it before, and whether or not you have access to it. Peace, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace out.